Hello, I'm Jim Cornwall, and this is the WalkingPost.com podcast. WalkingPost.com is the news website dedicated to walking, with all the latest on books, festivals, health, fitness, trails, gear, events, and more. This podcast is number 52, and it's going live on May the 15th. The election has come and gone, my car insurance renewal arrived this week, and it's up by almost 50% in spite of no claims, and even that was cheaper than the bill from the plumber. I'm clearly in the wrong business. Please, no emails telling me that you agree. I did try to call the insurance company, but after 15 minutes of press 1, enter your date of birth, enter your policy number, how many kilometres did you walk yesterday to 11 decimal places, I just couldn't be bothered. I have work to do, not to fight with some automated system designed to stop me from talking to a live person. I guess it worked though, because I did hang up. Let's get to May the 15th. It's Bike to Work Day, which is tough for those of us who either work at home or have a 60-mile commute. It's Endangered Species Day, which is another one that should be every day. It's Straw Hat Day, and I'm not sure why. And it is Senior Fraud Awareness Day. I guess there must be some seniors out there committing fraud, although that's probably not what it means. It's the day the city of Las Vegas was founded in 1905, and the day that the first McDonald's restaurant opened. 10 points if you know where the first one was, and it was in San Bernardino, California. 1,000 points if you know the name of the first customer, which I don't. There are now more than 45,000 of them, and that means restaurants, not customers. For birthdays, the composer Monteverdi, the great musicians of today Brian Eno and Mike Oldfield, and the tennis player Andy Murray. Last week we talked about Alaska. This week it's a little closer to home, or at least it is for me, because we're headed to Northern Ireland to talk about the new North-South Way Peace Camino. Before we get going, if you do have any news, guest ideas, or even subjects to cover, or comments, or you want to advertise, please do get in touch via walkingpost.com or just email me at jim@walkingpost.com. Okay, let's get through some of the headlines of the news articles you may have missed that we had on Walking Post this past week. Mammut is literally telling keyboard warriors to take a hike. Backroads introduced its new Women's Adventures Tours for 2027, and a Derbyshire Walking Festival is set to go. Progress has been made on the Great American Rail Trail. A boardwalk at the University of East Anglia has got the go-ahead, and $1 million is available for Appalachian Trail landscape protection, or Appalachian depending on your perspective. Women's walking is gathering momentum. A Round Table wants to put outdoor recreation at the centre of American health, and you can read all of these and more at walkingpost.com. Okay, let's get to this week's conversations, and there are 3 of them. A few weeks ago, my son and I headed across to Northern Ireland on the ferry and did some filming for a couple of projects. One of those is the new North-South Way Peace Camino, which goes from Portadown in Northern Ireland to Carlingford in the Republic of Ireland. It incorporates another new trail, the Carlingford Lough Greenway, which runs from Newry to Carlingford. When you start in Portadown, if you're peckish, after about 2 minutes there's a huge Tesco, or you can keep going. And the first place you'll come to is Moneypenny's, a lock and forge, and it's very pretty. When we got there, we met with a couple of people. First, we chatted with Shirley Hayes, Service Manager of REACT Armagh, to get a bit of an overview of the Camino.
Yeah, so the North-South Way Peace Camino project is a shared walking route starting Portadown and connecting Northern Ireland to the Republic of Ireland and finishing in Carlingford. It is a walking route, but more than that, it's a community-led initiative. So it's the community developing the route and sharing in the development of that. Then we will have businesses, councils, the community themselves, and people like Inland Waterways, and everyone coming together to protect the route and create an experience for people who want to come here and walk along this beautiful waterway.
What's behind the name?
Well, the name, you have North-South Way, so that sort of speaks for itself. That's where we're collecting Northern Ireland to the Republic of Ireland. Peace Camino is the purpose of the route. It's the meaning in behind it. So it's about people coming here, reflecting, it's promoting peace, it's about peace building. The world that we live in now, I think peace is something that we all hope for and that we can all support. So the meaning behind it really is we're inviting people to walk together as one for peace.
And you have your own Camino connections, don't you?
Very much so, actually. In 2020, I walked my first Camino. It was a challenge. I set myself after back surgery to walk from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France to Santiago and on to Mushier. Quite a challenge, so it was. And I've walked Camino every year since that and go back again this year for the 6th time on the Camino. But that first Camino changed my life. I managed to release a lot of fears and anxiety, and I came back home feeling completely different actually after it. And so Camino has become my place where it's where I find peace, and I go and I feel completely, I don't know, it just gives me something that I feel that it connects into nearly my very soul, you know. And last year when I went back to Camino, it changed my life again, and I found my partner on Camino. I've also seen as well, but in Spain, how the Camino, it works with the community. You know, what it gives the community and the people who live on the route along the way, it boosts their economy, it brings people in connection with walkers internationally. I've sat in rural villages in Spain talking to lovely 80-year-olds about their route and the pride that they have in their Camino. And I thought, well, why can't we have that here? Why can't we do something like that here? Why can't we bring Camino here? We can boost our economy, we can connect communities, we can, you know, connect people internationally to ourselves. They can learn about our heritage, our culture. And Camino in itself, then, what it gives you is a place to reflect, to connect with yourself. You look at this beautiful lock keeper's cottage, and the plan is that this will be somewhere along this route people can stop and for a cup of tea and sit, listen to the water and just relax in the space. That's peace. That's peace of mind and peace in the environment. That's the idea anyway.
And a lot of trails have a direction. Is this one where you would start in Portadown and end up in the Republic, or can people do it both ways?
Yeah, they can do it both ways. So the start point is Portadown, end point in Carlingford, but you can do that in the reverse. You can start in Carlingford and then in Portadown. The important thing is that it is both directions because it's a peace building route. So it's not just one direction we're building peace. It is both directions. And so we encourage people to walk it in both directions. So people can fly into Belfast, they can get the train to Portadown and start walking. Equally, they can fly into Dublin and get the connection train and bus to Carlingford and start walking. So people can come either direction up the route.
Do you anticipate it being like a lot of walks where you can get stamps along the way, like a little passport kind of thing?
And interesting you say that. So at the moment, no, we don't have a Camino passport or the stamps. And that is simply because as this is a community initiative and led by the community, we want the community themselves to create the passport and the community, each community along the way to create their own stamp that represents their heritage, their culture, their identity within their community. And it'll grow in that way. It'll grow with as the community develop it more. It'll become more experiential for walkers. So there will be eventually where people can stamp as they go along the way. But those stamps will be created by the local people. You know, and there will be other artworks and storytelling experiences that the community will add to this route. So that means it'll be very much an experiential journey that people can get connected into.
The new Carlingford Lough Greenway, there's plans to extend that, possibly to Greenore and maybe even around to Dundalk. Will the Camino grow in the same way? Will it include that?
Caminos traditionally, I mean, if you look at all the Caminos across Europe, they're a flexible living route, and Caminos have variants and they have connections and links across multiple routes because that's the way Camino works. So there is the possibility in the future as, different routes develop that we can connect in and we can develop variant routes along the way. At the minute, where our focus is getting this established. The council is working on signage that connects the route as well. The community will work on signage and things that we will put into the route for people. And the website will give people information about walking the route. And we're certainly here as a community to try and help other groups to walk the route as well. So it will grow, but it's not something we're forcing. It's growing with the community. And that is the key to this. The community is leading the way on this. So at the heart of it is the community leading the way forward to create something for peace.
What's the distance and how many stages do you envisage it being?
40 miles, 65 kilometres. It's not an endurance track. So it depends on what people want. I could probably walk this in maybe 2 days, 3 days, but I'm a Camino walker. So for other people, that wouldn't be the case. So some people might walk it in 3 or 4 days. Other people just might walk sections of it. They might not walk the whole thing. It's also a very popular cycle route as well. I mean, people can actually rent bicycles in Carlingford. So you can rent a bicycle in Carlingford and you can cycle the route. And certainly you could cycle the route in 1 day. So you could from one point to another. People could get the train with their bike into Portadown and cycle to Newry and get the train back to Portadown. And so there's lots of different ways that you can do the route. There's points and villages along the way that allow people to stop for refreshments, for toilets. So that would be Portadown. First point is Moneypenny's here. Then that leads on to Scarva, Points Pass to Newry, Omeath and Carlingford. So there's different points, but people need to plan their route the same as you would walk any route. Plan your start point, your exit point, and your points along the way where you're going to stop for food and toilet and all of that.
What are some of the highlights for you? Obviously all of it, but
some of the highlights. Okay, so this is a beautiful historic waterway. You have got a canal waterway opening out onto a loch shore. So along this part of it is you've got all the history that comes with the canal, the lock gates, you have the bridges, the lock keepers' cottages, the forge, you have the tree-lined canal, you have the birds that come here for summer. I mean, the canal at the minute has swans on it. You have all the kingfishers, the herrings. So as you're walking along, the bird life it just blows me away. Whenever you're walking along and you see a herring just fly down the canal towards you, it'll take your breath away. And then you get to Newry, you transition through Newry town itself, and then you walk a beautiful loch shore boardwalk, a wooden boardwalk. You're walking right on the water's edge where you're watching the seabirds. You're surrounded by mountains that are sweeping right down into the sea. And as you reach Omeath, the loch opens out in front of you. And on a sunny day, the water just glistens with the mountains, the coulees and the Mourne Mountains on either side. And there is the loch right in front of you. So as a highlight, I think the whole thing, is a highlight. For me, whenever I walk along the route, I can feel the peace. I'm one who connects in with nature, but I think for anybody, if you come and you spend a day just connecting in with nature, take a packed lunch, flask, sit on the side of the water, have a cup of tea and just breathe. And, it's just so peaceful and so beautiful.
and who looks after it?
They're a group of volunteers who actually manage the waterway. They're the ones that come down and they pull out the dead trees of the water. They make sure that it's safe, that it's protected, that the environment is protected, and they're passionate about it. And you have a whole squad of volunteers that are doing this, and they're doing that because they have the passion in it. They enjoy the history and the heritage, that comes with it as well. As well as that, there's going to be gardens, peace gardens along the way, and the communities will look after those gardens. So you have a route that is managed by local people, and for the most part, people who are doing it voluntary, that gives walkers the opportunity to experience this.
And that cross-border thing can't be understated as well.
Oh, it is. It is really important. So it is. We had a hard border for a long time. And that also created psychological borders for people north and south. So what we have in this route is we have a walking corridor, we have a blue-green walking corridor, but we also have a community corridor that is for well-being, connection, peace building, and it's an economic corridor. So this route in itself, it started off as a trade route, but now it's turned into a whole other different type of corridor where it's bringing people together.
Next, we turn our attention to the location itself to learn about Moneypenny's from Jonny Keer, Heritage Officer at Moneypenny's Forge.
So this is Moneypenny's Forge. Moneypenny's Forge was traditionally a stables and bothy for the men coming up and down the canal on the lighters. They would have been going from transporting coal from Coal Island down to Dublin traditionally, and they would have stayed here overnight. So the horses would have been here in the stables and the men in the bothy next door. This building was built in the early 1800s. I think it was a lot more comfortable for the horses than it was for the men. It was a 2-day journey from Newry to Portadown, so they would have needed somewhere to stay overnight, and this would have been the first stop on that route. On the window here you can see some of the work by our students. You can see it says Moneypennies. The Moneypennies were a family that lived here traditionally and that ran the lock. They would have collected the tolls for the people going through the lock chamber, and so it was a nice job for them, and they had a beautiful house here, beautiful middle class house where this is where the working men would have been, So the Moneypennies were here the whole way through from the 1700s through to the middle of the 1900s, and so the place is still named after them. Well, Moneypennies, we've been here since 2013. We train amateur blacksmiths, really as hobbyists that come along to us, and they learn the various skills of blacksmithing, various traditional skills. A lot of people want to come along and make blades and make weapons and swords and things like that. We'll also have people coming along that want to make, like myself, sculptures. That's where I kind of come in. Everything from sculptures to gates to tools to blades, whatever people want to make, they can come along and learn. We would have a fair few set projects that people can come and try out, and then it's up to them really where they want to take it to. Blacksmithing is such a wide and varied field that there's a niche in there for everybody.
This is part of all along the canal. People kind of walk along and come in. Now, at what times are you open?
We're here 10 to 4, Tuesday to Saturday, so people can call in any time during that. You can book in as well. You can call in. People can drop in just to see what's happening in the forge, see what people are doing. Usually you have to book in. You might get lucky and call on a day where you can walk straight in, but usually you would have to book in advance. So there's plenty to do along the trail, and we would probably be the first stop, I guess, if you're coming from Portadown. We would have been the first stop. Traditionally, this was the first stop anyway for people when the barges and the canal boats were going up and down the canal from Newry to Portadown, or from Portadown to Newry. We would have been the first stop. Keeping that tradition going here at Moneypenny's.
Is it a tradition that's dying?
Well, hopefully it's not going to be in the past. Hopefully, with the Camino coming along here, we're going to see an upswing in traffic. Obviously, we always get regulars walking along here, but hopefully with the Camino, we're looking more at international people coming along. Here at Moneypenny's, we're used to welcoming people from further afield. We've had New Zealanders, Aussies, Russians. So it'd be great to see that being even more diverse people coming along.
And you were talking about training people. Is that local people that want to do this?
Local ones, but anyone can come in if they want to. We had a guy in from Shetland, a farmer in from Shetland just recently doing something. So, but mostly blacksmithing takes time, so you have to stick around. You can only learn so much in one day, like any skill or advanced craft, it's going to take time.
And you have a lot of material here. What do you do with that?
We supply all the safety gear. We supply all the steel for price, and we're the cheapest in the country as well. We believe here at Moneypenny's in keeping it cheap. We're a public service. We're not here to make money. We're here to provide a service to the public for people to come in and enjoy traditional skills and access them, and access the wonderful things that traditional skills can do for mental health and for well-being.
And this creature here, what's this?
Oh, this is a raven. This is Morrigan. She is going to go to Navan Fort. So the Morrigan was a traditional mythological figure in Irish mythology, like a witch kind of figure, a shapeshifter. And one of her shapes is as a raven. And as a raven, she was a harbinger of ill will. She was a harbinger of death, really. So it's a bit of a dark one, but a lot of mythology is dark. So this one is just made out of willow. It's taken me several weeks. And I'm going to spray that stuff black, and then I have some nice black willow there as well to go on the top. And we're going to finish these eyes with some nice stone. So it's taken about 6 weeks working it so far, and there'll probably be another 3 weeks. So it's all good fun. Listen, I could show you some of our blades and things.
Yeah, let's do that.
So a lot of people, when they come to Moneypenny's, a lot of people want to come along these days. They're watching things like Forged in Fire, and they're watching Game of Thrones, and they want to make blades, and they want to have fun with that. So that's one of the things that blacksmiths, of course, are famous for. So these are pattern welded blades, sometimes called Damascus, about 66 layers. And then this one is a Viking style blade, has this herringbone kind of pattern going on here. This one's called a Viking sax. So these are the kind of more advanced things that people come along here to do at Moneypenny's. Now it takes a little while to get up to that point. Sometimes we'll do axes and things too. So here's a nice axe with a wee dragon cut into or burnt into the handle there. Again, Viking style kind of things. So there you go.
We then left Moneypenny's and kept going along the path. You'll pass through the small community of Scarva before you arrive at Loch Shark, also known as Acton Lake. And it was there that we had a conversation with Paul O'Neill, Secretary of the Inland Waterways Association of Ireland, Newry Portadown Branch. And during the chat, a few bikes went by, as you'll hear, and one of them had a boombox, so you may hear a 1-second snippet of a famous song. Definitely 100 points if you can pick out what that one is.
Well, yes. Well, firstly, we're at the very beautiful Loch Shark, and this is the source, or one of the main sources of water to Newry Canal. Or was when it was operational. We're at the location of the sluice keeper's cottage, and the sluice keeper's job was, amongst other things, was to allow water out from the lake and into the canal so that it could fill up the sections. This is a fairly unique. At the time it was unique in Great Britain and Ireland. It was the first summit level canal. So of the canals that we understand nowadays, you know, those that with little narrow boats going up and down through locks, this was the very first of that kind in these islands. It opened in 1742, and it was designed to take coal from a location in Tyrone on the far side, on the shore of Lough Neagh. Through Lough Neagh, coal will be collected in boats and floated up the canal and then down into Newry, so that it could be loaded onto larger boats in Newry and then taken to Dublin, where they anticipated great demand for coal. So this is in the first half of the 18th century.
How has it been kept since then, like with the inland waterways?
Since then, like all canals in Great Britain and Ireland, the competition from the railways first, and then from road transport, decimated the trade along the canal. It took maybe about 70 or 80 years after the railways first came before eventually the canal was abandoned. And then it went into a state of disrepair over a good number of years, until volunteers from groups like our own group. Our group started in the 2000s, but there were other groups before that who took an interest in the canal and tried to preserve it and to lobby for its repair. That's an ongoing job. The local branch of Inland Waterways Association of Ireland, the Newry Portadown Branch, invests thousands of hours of volunteer effort every year in helping to preserve the canal infrastructure as best that we can by removing falling trees and by lobbying for various repairs. And our hope, of course, is to have it restored to its full glory. And yes, we'd love to see narrowboats making the journey between Portadown and Newry again, eventually, from between the two locks.
The path that goes alongside it, was that always like the towpath?
It was, yes. So we're very lucky that the towpath has been preserved and has been repaired over the last number of years. Originally, before the days of diesel engines or any kind of motors, the power to move things along the canal came from horses, of course. So the horses needed a pathway from which they could pull the lighters, the names of the boats we had here, to pull the lighters along the water.
And this is also, Loch Shark is also called Acton Lake?
Acton Lake. It's called Acton Lake after a nearby village. So Acton village is just about a mile away from here. So it's commonly called Acton Lake also. It was named after a village in Gloucestershire, from where the next town along Points Pass also indirectly got its name. an adventurer in Elizabeth I's First Army in Ireland, was awarded land in this area for services, military services, and he named the village Acton after his hometown in Gloucestershire.
The heron flying in the background there. It's an idyllic place.
Absolutely gorgeous, yes. This little centre here, the Sluice Keeper's Cottage, was developed by the local councils about 20 odd years ago, and then it too also was about to suffer dereliction, and instead they have leased it to the Inland Waterways Association. We opened it up at weekends in the spring and summer, and we welcome thousands of people here.
Is it like a mini museum? How is it?
Yes, it's a mini museum, and our volunteers are always on hand also to fill in the gaps. But if you wanted to film inside, we can show you some of the beautiful dioramas we have and some interesting artifacts.
All right, and for people cycling by and walking by, refreshments as well?
We do. We offer free tea and coffee.
Oh, wow. Well, we didn't film the whole trail. We did get to spend a little more than a day there in the region, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. Hopefully we get to go back again in the summer and complete the trail, as long as we don't have the same issue as this time, when we wanted to get a bus back to Portadown, and the bus driver of a different bus told us that we'd missed it, and we'd have to wait about 2 hours for the next one. So we turned around and started walking to the train station, only for the bus to fly right by us. And we had to wait more than an hour and a half for the train as well. And my phone battery had died, so I couldn't even read the news or delete 100 spam emails. But thanks to Jonny and Paul and of course Shirley, who set up the interviews, everyone was so welcoming, and the weather was decent too, so a great trip. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that snippet of music as the cyclist went by. And if you guessed at Cars by Gary Newman, then you would be correct. That just about does it for this week. My son's doing more work experience with me next week, so no calling in sick. And the weather doesn't look like it's going to be as kind this time around, so he may even have to learn how to edit audio and video. And then he could teach me. I'm just kidding. I've been doing this for, well, a long time. Back in the day when you edited audio using reel-to-reel tape and a knife, it definitely wasn't fast. But then today sometimes it's not that fast either. You get full hard drives, crashing programs, missing files, having to restart the computer. Although having said that, I do prefer today, even if it's not perfect. If you do have news or suggestions for podcast guests, please do get in touch through jim@walkingpost.com. We're always looking for guests, whether it's about a new trail, a new book, a walking festival, or someone doing an amazing, unusual, or interesting walk somewhere. So I hope you enjoyed this week's walkingpost.com podcast, and I hope you have a great week ahead, hopefully with a walk somewhere, and that, like the new Camino, it's a peaceful one. Until next time, happy trails. Walking Post from walkingpost.com is an Air Coastal Media Limited production.